ACT President of the Australian Association of Environmental Education, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet and work on the lands and waters of the Ngunnawal people. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I'd also like to acknowledge all Aboriginal people who have a connection to the lands of the ACTs and surrounding. And it's actually quite relevant that we our acknowledgement of country, because what Sue's going to do today in terms of fits very well in with the cultural tradition of our First Nation people, in that for thousands of years they passed on knowledge through song, dance and stories. So for those of you, I think most of you do actually know who Sue is. She's our 2020 ACT Environmental Educator of the Year. She is also the founder of director of Dance Kids. And if you're wondering why I've got the bee hat on, it's because Sue has an excellent kit called Take Flight Education that's lots of busy bees in it and great fun. So without sort of wasting any more words, let's now hear from Sue. Over to you, Sue.
Thanks, Viv. Good one. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you all for tuning in. It's lovely to see everybody and to my live audience. What fun this is. Today, I'd really like to have a conversation with you all about the theatrical techniques. Particularly, I'm into dance, of course. I was a ballet teacher, dance and a creative movement, as well as my simple props to engage children in the science behind the Dance Kids environmental discovery programs. Of course, the focus will be on life under the sea, since it's just been Sea Week, but I will also touch on other programs. Please help me by making this a true conversation, okay? So you ladies listen to this, please.
Yes.
Because I want you to share. I want you to share some of your experiences, so we can all learn from each other today a little bit. So feel free to chime in wherever you want to. It's just about something you might spring to mind that might be relevant to what we're talking about. Or ask a question, or if you want to go back and see a particular slide. So please feel free to do that, because it makes more of a conversation, which is what it's supposed to be about. Hey. These are my Dance Kids, my 12 core Dance Kids programs. A lot of them are environmental programs, but as some of them are cultural ones, like around the world and Mexico and so on. But I do focus a lot on environmental ones, because you can see there's a nice bee program, and dinosaurs is a real popular one. The dinosaurs are great. But I also there's a couple of programs I do on Possum Magic and Wombat Stew and other children's books as well. This is just a little bit about the Take Flight, the Dancing Honeybee kit that I have developed of recent years for teachers. It has a workbook, and it's just showing you a lot of pictures here about it. But I'll just tell you a bit about it, and later on at the end of our program, I'll talk about. I'll show you some clips from the video in it. So it has at the heart of it, it has 8 video episodes. And it goes from anatomy, and it's like chapters in a story, which is how the Dance Kids programs go. So we start with anatomy, because then you're looking at the function of the bee's body, basically. So then you build on that. So the next one's making honey and how they make the honey, and then pollination. So and then each chapter will recap back to what the other one was. So they'll pick up on the anatomy parts, and they'll pick up on making honey. Do you remember when we made honey, sort of? So that they can, it's just like a story. And then we do the communication. So we have great fun doing the communication dances, the waggle dance and the round dance. The life cycle, honeybee jobs, the poor old worker bees have to do all the work, all the girls, of course. Then there's a new colony, sort of with swarming and why they swarm, and how they then, about scouting, how they have to go out and find another place to, a suitable place for them to build their hive. There's also then, there's 2 extra videos, which is the creative bee dances and then a warm up with Take Flight. Then if you look over here, I can't see all of that now, because, oh yes I can, I think. At the front of the workbook you'll find links to the curriculum. So there's a science part of the curriculum foundation to year 2. There's a cross-curriculum priority, which is sustainability. And then there's the arts, the dance, of course. Finally, the dance and the arts got recognised in the curriculum. It took a while for foundation in year 2. The workbook is divided into episodes, and each episode contains the following components. So it has the background science behind it, which is also reflected in the videos. Dance steps, classroom activities, worksheets, and then there's a whole lot of posters as well. So these is Dance Kids' signature, which I think is really five key points, which is really the core of what Dance Kids and Take Flight is about. So the first one is to meld science with the arts, live the science through dance and role play. And that is so important. It's by doing it, actually being it, that the kids understand, that remember it. And that's understanding by being. To truly understand what it is like to be a bee or any living thing is absolutely to become one, which I did with some children today. They were dressed up in my bee costumes, which have big compound eyes on the head here, and they'd been taught about it. And this boy said, "Wow, look at those huge compound eyes." Now this is a preschooler, and so he was really great, And then we have the value, respect, and kindness. Slow it down, you see. Okay, so to respect nature, value the contribution every living thing makes to our world, nurture kindness, understand that we are all connected and the need to take responsibility. And then there's creativity and play. Every child has an incredible capacity to understand, imagine and create. By harnessing this capacity, children become engaged learners, develop confidence, and are empowered to contribute to a sustainable future. Then, of course, there's brain and activity. Studies show a direct link between physical activity and the cognitive, that's the brain development and enhanced learning. Okay. All right, now we get to our under the sea part of this episode. Each program in my programs run over 5 weeks. So the story runs over 5 weeks. On the 5th week, we put all the episodes together and sometimes invite the parents along to come and watch. The Undersea program, the Undersea story episodes are as follows. Episode 1 is with Introduction to Life Under the Sea and the focus of the humpback whale. Episode 2, the stingrays and how they hide from predators. Episode 3 is jellies and their relatives, because they're not fish, are they? They shouldn't call them fish. So I call them jellies and their relies. Okay, and then episode 4 is fish and why they school, as well as lobsters. I've also popped in the hermit crabs, as I sometimes put them into this program. I have to say, when we deliver the programs, you should use your voice. Think about how you use your voice to be exciting and interesting, and the children, it's like telling a storybook, if you like. If you just read it and it's just, there's no excitement in your voice or no contrast and so on, the kids soon get bored with it, don't they? So if you use your voice and be expressive when you do any actions, really do it. I know kids copy everything you do, absolutely everything you do. I can't scratch my head without they all scratch their head. And feel you are, when you're a stinger, feel you are doing the actions and being enthusiastic about it. I like to set the scene and really give the atmosphere of being down by the sea when we do, and really under the sea. I have a big yellow sheet that's sort of got a textured look that makes it look like sand. So we pretend we're all sitting on the beach, and then we think about and we talk about, I ask them about what might live under the sea, what might be in the rock pools. Then I think it's important for me to try and introduce something that really inspires them. It's something different. So some beautiful posters like this one of a reef and things. It really feels that we're going almost into a magical place, which is like, well, it's just like another world. And then this one here is the leafy sea dragons, because not many kids will have seen leafy sea dragons. They would have seen the seahorses, but not the leafy sea dragons. And here, so can everybody see? I can do this. If I get out the right, so I don't think they can see it. No, I think they can see it if you leave it there.
Okay.
And I just put it back a little bit here. they can see it, I think. Yeah.
And if they need to make it bigger on their screen, they can do that.
Okay. So there's a leaflet obviously underneath. This is from the back view. And if we hold this out, the girl's arms would be here. So that's how they can dance with it. So it looks like this. Yes. And it's just the most beautiful. Of course, this is the head. It's just the most magnificent. It was for one of my programs that I did at CSIRO on camouflage, because they hide very well. Then we move on. And then we go into little because a lot of children don't realise that shells actually are the home. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Actually, shells are a home with a little animal living in it. You know, I don't think they sometimes connect that. And so what we do is we hold our hands like this. So everybody hold your hands like this, please. Pretend that's the shell. Come on, I want to see, I can see you. Use your hands, everybody. Let's do it. That's it. Thank you. Now just close it up. And then pretend you open it just a little bit like this. And then you use a finger to pretend it's feeding, right, from the plankton in the water and everything. And then something frightens it. And it closes it really hard like that, tight. So if it's tight like that, you know there's a little animal in there because he's not letting or she's not letting you open it, all right? Now, if you take that little animal, that shell back to Canberra with you, what's going to happen to it? Yes, it will die, won't it? Because it really needs to live by the sea. And so that's why we need to look after the ocean, and we have to make sure it's healthy for them, but we certainly shouldn't take them away from it. If the shell is open like that, and you can see there's nothing inside it, well, then you know that the animal isn't there anymore, so you can use it on your sandcastles or bring it back to Canberra, I guess, if you want to. Okay, that's our little thing. All right, now we move into our beautiful humpback whales. And we think about the action, how amazing they are. This is the excitement of it all. Look at that huge animal. It's important to get them, to get really good photos to show kids and things like this, which is exciting to see. And when they realise and they know how huge a whale is and it can leap out of the water like that, is just amazing. And the kids get, think it's awesome. And then we're going to be whales, so we'll be learning how to use our pectoral fins and spout and so on. And I asked the children, what makes that sound? Their eyes get a bit, sometimes they get a bit, and then I say, this is how the whales sing, all right? That's how they sing, and I'm going to just keep a bit quiet now. And that's how the boy whales sing to the girl whales, and I say, we think that sounds funny, don't we? But sometimes they might think our songs are pretty funny too, don't they? Sometimes I think some of our songs are pretty funny. But that's how they communicate. Then this is how we use a sheet of material, like, just water sort of thing, to make it look like the ocean. And we wave it around like this. We move it up and down. I've got my water one here. So when we've got it, it's nicely, so we can use it so that it floats like this here, and we can do it this way and that way. And then we can peep under and make the whale sounds. Ooh, kids think it's hilarious. And yeah, they wave it like this. That's it. That's right. And sometimes I use it for, I'll have them sitting on the beach, and I do a dance to it. So I use the music and I dance to it. I might do that in a minute, and show you what I do with that. I'll just have a look here. Because when we're doing this part, when we're all sitting around, and by the way, this really keeps a great connection with kids. Some kids that are a little bit reluctant to join in, sort of, they really, get a bit scared. But then when they all sit around, it really gives them that feeling of being all part of it, and they just love it. So then I play this music for them, and in the background, there's a sound of the ocean. There might be the sound of birds like seagulls, or I try and introduce other birds other than seagulls, like terns to, there are other birds other than seagulls down by the beach. And also the whale sounds. So they had some good listening skills, because they really have to listen. And as soon as they hear, because I've just played the whale sound, they'll also, as soon as I hear a sound, they'll say it's a whale. And I'll say, how about we listen a bit to this? Okay, so this is how this bit goes. So you can see the sound. You hear the bird? Maybe see at the same time, so we can waving it up and down along the waves. You might wash it this way and that way and lift it up and down. You might rippling it's the warrior sort of thing. And then you keep underneath and sort of break our whale sounds. Sometimes I'll get them to lie down on their backs and get down and I wave it. When I touch a certain group, you've got to make the whale sound. And I lift it up again and they love it because it's that lovely sensation of being feeling like you're actually under the water. You know? So if I do this, okay, so if I'm doing this, there's sometimes they're sitting, pretend you're sitting on the beach out there. Right? And the waves walk this way, and that way, and you roll over and over and over, you ripple, and then I pretend the glass is empty. Pretend it's right up to the beach and it goes whoosh and over the top of it. Whoosh. The bird is a business. And they think that the kids just know that they would do that. So it puts that lovely feeling. Alrighty. All right. Then, so what are we up to? 13. Haven't really been paying attention here. Now I want to go back because I've missed a couple of things here. That's what I should look, shouldn't I? Okay, I wanted to show you other ways of using just coloured sheets. Okay, it's quite a lot of fun to use for them. So we have things like I do a rainforest program, and I have this tie-dye. I'm always looking for. This tie-dyed piece of material, and I didn't dye it, it was just I found it in some shop somewhere, and it's beautiful because it looks like it could be the forest floor, and they look into it and see, they can see leaves, sometimes they might see something that looks like a frog, there's some parts that look like a dragonfly. It's also excellent for my camouflage program because there's things hiding in there, you know. So things like this are a real gem to find. Keep your eyes out just when you're looking around. Then on my water cycle, my water program, you've got wet hands. On the water cycle program, I part of it I look, you know, sort of I use little blue scarves to be the rain. So we look at solid, liquid and gas with it. We use different scarves for different things. But we also think about, so the first part of the cycle is it rains, all right, and we come down, and then there's the importance of the sphagnum moss bogs that really need to be looked after because they filter the, you know, keep it clean, they stop the flow. What else do? They act as filters, prevent erosion, and so on. So it shows that it's important. So what they do when they pretend they're the rain coming down, and then they'll pretend they're just going through the bog. So actually, Viv, you could hold up this other end. Busy bee, busy bee. So just now hold it sort of endwise. That's it, like that. So we make it like, just hold it like that. And the kids go through it and pretend they're the water moving through the bog like this. Hold it down a bit. No, not under it. No. Just like this. So they go through under it. I sometimes have a lycra tunnel too that's got this green and spotty that we can move through. But this does the job just as well, really. And then they come out the other end and they go down the thing, down the river. And then they use their little scarves, and they use their little blue scarves and whatever, and they might flow it. They might go down the waterfall, or they might come to a quiet pool with the water, or then they might go over the rapids and so on. And we pick up mineral salts along the way, and then we go to the ocean and we evaporate and become gas, and so on. The cycle goes around. Okay. I'll just quickly show you for the honeybee program. I use this beautiful flower sheet like this, and I have finger puppets, and we have the finger puppet bees, and they pretend to visit the flowers and pollinate the flowers and collect the nectar and things that they act out. No, it's all right. I've got to be quick with this because otherwise I'll be too long. Okay, then other props like this are really great. This is Betty the bee, all right? And I've got Betty the butterfly rather, and I've got Buzzy the bee. And so to reinforce pollination, once we've sort of talked about it and shown pictures about it, is Betty visits the flowers and she gets pollen stuck all over while she's getting some nectar. And we go through the anatomy, so sort of her, thorax and her abdomen, etc. And she mixes up the pollen all through here, like this. We're in the rainforest, and so it's pollination. So then the rainforest tree can grow more fruit, see? And if she didn't mix up the pollen, that wouldn't happen. We wouldn't have all those beautiful rainforest trees. So that's a way of using different props as well. Okay, now we'll get back to our whales. Yes, we will. So we talk about the migration of the humpback whales. This is a cloth map that I got. It's obviously, we've just taken a segment shot here, but it's a map of the whole world, and the kids just love it. I actually found these in Spotlight. It was on a roll. You could buy them, so they're fantastic. And so when I first showed them, I sort of let them, we'll have a look at around the world. But one thing I do try and, get over to them is that, okay, in Australia, we've got kangaroos and we have, koalas and so on living in the bush in Australia. But we don't have elephants and giraffes and things. They live in Africa. They live there. The only time we'll see those are in zoos, or, the only time people in Africa will see kangaroos and things in their zoos. So because there's one thing with the way literature is, if your kids think about the animals and things, when we're going through the tunnel, I say, you can be whatever animal you like. 9 times out of 10, it'll be an elephant or a giraffe or something, rather than Australian animals. Anyway, so we're getting back to the migration of the whales. So we talk about Antarctica down the bottom there. We talk about that being frozen all the time, but in winter that the seas freeze over, and so that before that happens, the whales set off for Australia. So set off, and they come right across, and we come over to Tasmania, and when we go past. So we're all swimming along like whales at the time, and we're spouting and we do our jumping out of the water and things. We come past Tasmania and say, hi, Tasmania. So we're getting a bit of a go there, and then we swim along a bit further, and we go, we sort of swim down deep using our pectoral fins and up here. And then we're going past Bateman's Bay. Hi, Bateman's Bay. There's your teacher over there. She's having a lovely time on the beach, So it sort of brings relevance to where they're moving. And then we go to Sydney and we sort of think, oh, there's the Opera House and, the Harbour Bridge. I wonder who's climbing the bridge today. And we go a bit further up till we get to Queensland. And we go to Queensland, and that's where we have our babies, all right? Because it's just nice temperature. It's winter, but it's warm up there, not too hot, not too cold. And that's where they have their babies, all right? And so we talk about the babies because they're mammals, all right? Like us, they need to breathe air. They can't breathe underwater like fish can, but they can stay underwater a very long time, much longer than we can. So what I do now, there's another action things for people, all right? Okay, so we've got one hand, here's the mother whale. I'm watching everybody. And the other hand on here is the baby whale. Okay, and the mother pushes the baby whale up to the surface like this. And then it can take its first breath and it goes whoosh. And then they happily come back home and swim away. Yeah. All right. So then they feed on krill, and they feed on lots and lots and lots and lots. Krill is just like little prawns sort of thing. And they have to, because they're such a big animal, they have to eat heaps and heaps of it. Okay. What's that krill? Okay, does anybody around, I'm going to ask you all a question now, how we tell the difference between whales?
By their tails?
Who was that?
That's Leanne.
Leanne? By their tails? Yeah, what about their tails?
The markings on their tails.
That's it. They have patterns. They have different patterns on their tails. It's just like a fingerprint, like this. See? And the scientists give them a name, sort of, so they say this pattern belongs to Dennis. That's my father's name. It's got patches like that, and this is Julia. Okay, it's got the patterns like that. It is absolutely like our fingerprints because everyone is unique, as you can see by a whole group here. Yeah. So what I do is I give the teachers I've got a plastic template of a whale tail, and they make cardboard whale tails, and then the kids make their own patterns on it. And when we have dress up day at the end of the 5-week program, they wear their tails, and it's something they can take home with them, you know. So it's pretty cool. I mean, they wear my costumes, but of course they can't take those home. So this reminds them of their experience with it. So it's pretty cool. Of course, Migaloo, the white whale, well, there's a few white whales. It's a bit hard to tell the difference between white whales. So they think there's about, I think they think there's about 5 or 6 of them around Australia, but Migaloo was the one. It always makes me smile because I worked with a lot of Indigenous people when I was in Townsville, and they nicknamed me Migaloo because I was frequently the only white person around. Yeah, that's right. All right, now we move on to stingrays. Oh, I must show you before I forget. Well, I'll show you in a minute. But stingrays are made totally of cartilage. They don't have a bone in their body. That's why they're very bendy, you know, when they swim. And so I talk to the kids and say, you know, you wiggle the end of your nose. That nose, it's made of cartilage. Yeah, that's why it can wiggle. But up here where the bone is, you can't really wiggle the bone, can you? And you can wiggle your ears because that's made of cartilage too. Imagine your whole body being cartilage. Really. So I have these little stingrays like this, and they're sort of like little beanbag things. And so they can we sit in a circle and pass. I've got a few of them. We pass them around, and so they do the stingray action like this with it, and they make it sort of wiggle its tail as it swims along and things, and it sort of gives that feel of that bendiness. Another sort of thing I picked up somewhere or another, all sorts of odd things. Stingrays, what else did I want to say about it?
The motion?
Pardon?
The motion?
Yes.
It's different from...
The actions, yeah. So what I try and do, and as I say, kids will copy you. If you get it right, they will get it right too. So because it's all cartilage, we just do that feeling of there and turning it up here and there and turning it up. So when they swim around, they do that and do that, yeah. So it really gives that feeling of being so bendy. And then what we do, we talk about they have to hide from predators. So what they do is they fly around like this. It's like flying through it. And then you can see this picture where they land on the sand and all the kids go flat on the floor and wiggle into the sand and stay very still. And then I become the shark. Look out, here I come. I'm coming. You stay still or I'll see you. Sort of saying they all stay. They're lying in the sand, you know, just looking up with their eyes like this. And then I say, okay, the shark's gone away. I said, but while you're there, now that you're hiding, you can actually sneak up on something you might like to eat. So what we do is we make our hand look like a spider coming along, and they see it and they go, oh,
like a crab.
The crab, sorry,
Yeah.
a crab, sorry, yeah, a crab sort of, yeah, because, yes. All right, so then the picture goes like this, where they're buried like that, and then when you can hardly see them at all, yeah. Okay, now it's time for jellies and the relies. Jellyfish, just a tick. We look at jellyfish in a couple of ways. We look at their relatives, but first of all, we look at their anatomy a little bit. So jellies have a bell. The top part is called a bell. They obviously, the children usually know that they've got tentacles, and we have this bell. And around the edge of the bell, sorry, mine's not in mine. Yes. Okay. Around the edge of the bell is a muscle that they can use to pulse. So they contract it like that and up like that. So when I do it with the children, I have it around like this. We try and put the hands like that, keep our elbows up. And then when we bring it down, we go, and 1, into. And in a minute I'll play some music so that you can hear. So it's good for rhythm and timing, as well as doing the pulsing. So that's why I had a big one too.
This one?
Yeah, you can have one too if you want to come and join with your. There's yours over there. Okay, so we'll come back a little bit. Oh, I guess I can just put it over your head. Ooh. Can I get it over my head? Just make sure it's down at the back.
I've always wanted to be a jellyfish.
Come on, you've got to do it right. You're going
Well.
to do it. So we'll see if the music works. Should it work?
Oh, I see. Yeah. And then you have to fill in with the lesson.
Okay, so we're going to show like this. You put it just really different.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just keep your elbows up like this. And then just like that. So you go up. You have to do more up, so if you push it, it bubbles. See? Push it bubbles.
Don't break here. No, don't break there.
So push, see how it bubbles? And then you can swing to the side. Just like that, just like you do it. And be too gentle with it. And sometimes you can spin around. Just like it, and then you can go side to side like that. Hold it, turn it. You can imagine. These are this is what the little ones look like for the children. As well. So they're like rainbow ones with tentacles. So they can use it there. Yeah, so that's how we do the release or part. Oh, I meant to show you this. Yeah,
Fast and slow.
yeah. So this is how with the rhythm and timing, you can do it slowly. So that's what you really level and timing. All right. Okay, now we think about their relatives because they aren't fish. They look nothing like a fish. Okay, so these are sea anemones. They're little red sea anemones. So I asked the children to. They've got little tiny tentacles. So they all come here and pretend they're a little sea anemone. Field feeding. That's it. Everybody be a little anemone. That's it. And then when something comes along to frighten them, they curl up and they look like a little rubber ball. And then they open out again eventually, open up, and they start feeding again too, okay? So then we look at a variety of anemones. Say that fast. And there's one that looks like spaghetti, you know, and this one sort of with the back there, the pink one at the back looks like it's got, you know, had a bad tentacle day, you know, because it's got all tentacles in a mess, you know. And this one looks like a flower, and that one looks like a pizza. This one looks like a spider. That looks like a palm tree, you know. But they are all sea anemones of different kinds, and they are all related to jellies. I like to call them jellies. And so are corals, and corals build their little limestone homes, and little polyp lives inside, and it has little tentacles too. It looks like little flowers, don't they? Little tentacles too. So that's COVID. Looks a bit like that. All right, now we're going to fish. Fish. Yes, we're looking at fish, and one of the things we look at is why they school, and you know what that's about. But sometimes with the older ones, I talk about the fact that they also, why don't they bump into each other? They swim so close together and they change direction so quick. Why don't they bump into each other? Does anybody know what helps them not bump into each other? No?
Get somebody on the Zoom.
They have, they're all shaking their heads. Or at least the only one I can see is shaking their heads. Pardon?
Bit of radar.
Yeah, it's actually, they have pressure sensitive cells down the side of their body, so that when they get close together, it's, you know, squeezes the water, pressure is stronger because it's going through a narrow gap, and so they can sense that they're close, and then move it out, come in. It's a pressure sensitive thing. So you can have a lot of fun with kids too, but older kids a little bit, you know. So, yes, what else do I want to say about those guys?
So you get them to swim around in school.
Yes, that's what I want to do exactly. Because we have these ones, and we have look at different sort of fish, and I ask them, you know, sort of so say that all to be in shot. That you people over there could pretend that you are a school of fish, all right? Okay, you're a school of fish there. Now you're just staying where you are, right? And Jody, you can come over here. Now I'm pretending you could just stay on your knees, so you pretend you're a child. No, up on your knees. No, pretend you're a child. Yes, okay, you're a child. You're young. You're a fish. Okay, little fish. And I'm a big fish. I need my costume, don't I? I forgot about my costume. Right, now I'm into it. I'm the big bad fish, you know, and I'm coming along, and I can see this school of fish, and I get a bit confused, a bit mixed up, because some are swimming this way and some are going that way. And you've got to stay here. You've got to stay here, okay? And I can see that they could be a big fish. They might be, you know, they might eat me because they're such a big fish. And then I come along and I see this little come into view this way. I see this little fish, Jody, and I can see she's smaller than me. She would be lovely for my breakfast, but she has to quickly swim back and go to the quick, and then she goes back into the school of fish, and I get a bit confused again. I can't see her. I'm sure I saw a school of fish. And then what I do, so we all start swimming around, and we use the fish. We use our pectoral fins, and we wiggle our tails, sort of thing. So we're swimming, swim, and wiggle our tails and do this action like fish, you know. and then I nominate a teacher to be at the safe place to go, and I'll say, right, I'm the big fish now, you better go. And they all rush and sort of make their school close to their teacher, nearly knock her over. And then I walk around and I thought, I'm sure I saw a school of fish here somewhere. I'm sure I saw some little fish that would be good for me, but I can't really see them now because they're all close together. So it's a great game. We have a lot of fun. And the little kids' costumes are much the same as this, except a little bit smaller, that's all. I like it because it looks like fish skin.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Am I doing all right for time?
Yes.
It's 1:45.
So I've got quarter of an hour. Yep.
Unless you want to just pause for questions now, or
Yeah, but we might just quickly touch on the rock lobster.
yeah, yep.
And
And hermit crab.
the hermit crab. Yeah.
So you don't want questions?
Then after that, yeah, we'll ask questions, shall we?
Okay.
Is that all right? Okay, so I do include lobsters and things, and it's another way of using a green sheet, because I make a den. I make the teachers hold up that green sheet, and when something comes that's going to eat the lobster, they all rush into their den and hide underneath it. But it's got some great music. The reason I want to play this, it's the lobster conga. This is one of my favourite pieces of music.
Way down under the ocean, where lobsters live and die, you'll see the lobster tribe in a hip-hop conga line. So join the celebration and jump in behind your friends. Today we're all crustaceans and we're gonna party to the end. So come on, do you wanna come and do the lobster conga? Dance to the beat of the bongo, and we're having a lot of fun together. And you belong with me in a lobster conga, a little salsa, a little samba, oh, and anytime the weather. Everybody now snap your claws like a lobster, shake your tail like a lobster, swim, swim, swim like a lobster conga.
Well, that's how it goes.
Snap your paws like a lobster, shake your tail like a lobster, lobster swim, swim,
Okay. All right. This is my hermit crab. I do this sometimes in this Under the Sea program. Sometimes I use it in a different program. Yes. Okay. Okay. So it has a little jacket inside, so they can sort of wear it, and then they crawl around on the place with it, you know, and hide under it like this. But I explained to them that lobsters have a little twisted sort of tail. So to get into these, they curl the tail around like that, and they've got two hooks on the end, and they hook that on their body like that, and then they're quite happy. They're not really a crab. They're not a true crab. They're really more closely related to some kinds of lobsters, because they don't have a carapace. They don't like most real crabs do. But what happens is that they do grow. Okay, so like I say to the kids, like you grow out of your clothes. Okay, they grow out of their shell. So sometimes they have to carefully hop out, and that's when they're very vulnerable and look around to find another shell that fits them. And that isn't always easy. So sometimes they have to hop back in until they find one. But what they do, sometimes they all get together and it's like a hand-me-down party. Okay, so there's some that are bigger and some that are smaller, and they hop out and, oh, your shell will do me, so I hop into that one. Okay, and then, so it's really quite funny. But I was thinking that it would be something that teachers could do, because you could make, out of cardboard, you could make a conical shape like this and get the kids to paint it. It could just be, and of different sizes. So it could be sort of a mathematical or whatever thing to do. And then they sort of figure out which one they would fit best, or to go up in size or down in size and so on. So has anybody got any questions or anything for the moment before we go to the final roundup?
Are you going to talk about the performance section? And there's a question about who makes your costumes.
Oh, there's a question about who makes my costumes. I can't hear them, is that right?
Yeah, no, they're
Okay.
just mostly muted, but I'm just letting you know that someone's asked that.
Firstly about the performance?
About do you make your costumes?
Oh, no, I'm not. I sort of try, I buy the material. Can you imagine trying to find material like that for a shell? Most things have got dots or spots or flowers or something on them, you know. So no, I don't. I've had different people over years making them for me. The lady that made the sea dragons actually worked at CSIRO, and she could make anything. She was fabulous. You know. Yeah, no, I'm not a sewer. I can design it. I know what it should look like, but yeah.
I'm going to show the picture of the child inside them.
Oh yes, sorry. That's how a child fits inside it. There we go. And crawls around. Yeah. And what was the other question?
About performance.
Oh, about
how do you put it all together and?
Right. When, as I say, there's 4 weeks where we go, you know, link all the stories together, and then in the 5th week, I don't think I explained that properly earlier. You put all the chapters in the story together so that it's like a story, but under the sea. This is now when we're stingrays, this is when we're the whales and so on. And mixed with that is some fun dances as well. And the parents come along, well, not at the moment. Well, we have had, today we did it outside. It was at Honeybees when we did it outside, and the parents stood on the other side of the fence and watched the kids. So that was one, and one I'm doing tomorrow, they use it as a school hall, and they're limited to 50 people, I think, and they can, but it's a big hall, so they can space them out. But that's basically what it is. It's just bringing the whole story together in one hit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you can say more about. Then they realise how much they've learnt, I suppose, when they see it all together.
Yes, they do. The parents actually are really quite blown away by what the kids remember. You know, I ask tricky things, you know, about them that they might have only done in the first week, but the kids do retain it. They really remember, and they're very proud, and it gives them a real thrill that they know things. For example, when I do like the bee one today, because bees have 5 eyes, you know, they have 2 big compound eyes and 3 simple eyes, which we do in a dance kind of thing. and 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 you know, the kids are amazed because the parents don't know that. I usually ask the parents, how many eyes has a bee got? Don't tell them. And, you know, so they really get a thrill out of knowing something their parents don't know. Actually, one mum today said, I know it's 5. He told me. So,
Sue, you know, by drawing it together into a theatrical production at the end, not only are the kids learning heaps, but also the parents, I would imagine.
oh, they do. You know, I had one fellow when we were doing the water cycle one, and he was, you know, he was a dad probably in his 30s or thereabouts, and he said, do you know what? I never really understood how the water cycle worked till I saw that, you know. So it was pretty good. You know, they do take, and one in the rainforest was funny because I was saying how the bats are important for seed dispersal as well as pollination in our tropical rainforests. And this little boy had gone home and said, Mum, you know, these bats are really important. His mother apparently said, I don't like bats. He said, Mum, you've got to like bats. They're very important. You know, sort of, they spread the seeds around. So they're good carriers of information, I think, you know, and reaching out into the community, maybe making people think about the importance of our natural environment. And it's no, I don't think there's many better ways than through their children, you know. Because they suddenly think, oh, you know, caring. And it creates a sort of an empathy too for living things, as I've tried to show through what I've been doing today. Yeah. So I can
certainly think what you do, you know, how I was linking at the beginning to First Nation knowledge, and that it shows, you know, how strong a creative theme in terms of things that people enjoy, song and dance, what a good mechanism that is for actually teaching stuff. I think
some people are a bit afraid of dance per se, you know, and really, I mean, what I've done today, you know, anyone can do. It's not rocket science. It isn't really rocket science, and you know, so people just have to get that courage, because I know some teachers, but when teachers really join in, the kids think it's wonderful, you know, they really take to it. So I think it's a great way of inclusion, and children that are a bit sometimes not comfortable with doing things like that, but they soon get into it. They see everybody else having a good time, you know. So maybe we'll just move on to finish off the last little bit. I was thinking about, let's have a look what's next. Yeah, I just thought I might show you something about the Take Flight Education dance, the honeybee kit that I've done. It's called the Dancing Honeybee. I thought this was important to develop this. I chose this one, well, obviously it's based on the bee program that I do with dance kids, because I thought it was important for things like you know, understanding food security, the importance bees are to us for pollination purposes, you know, that we don't always think about. Of course, kids think, you know, think bees, think honey, and that's about the end of the story. It also, what was the other reasons? It also shows even very simple techniques you can create. You know, you could create a whole school production. In fact, at the school in West Australia that actually bought one of my kits, actually did that. They had the total from year, you know, I think foundation to year 6, all did certain parts of being in part of the bee community sort of thing. So yeah, I think the kit can create a template for teachers too to develop other stories, you know, as you've seen what we've done today. So, but it's there for them, and there's nothing else they have to do, because the music is composed by a couple here in Canberra, so it's original music. There's everything's on the video, all the information that is in the book, sort of. So, you know, there's nothing much you have to do. You can just do it and cover so many bases with it. I won't show that, I don't think. This is just a clip from one of the videos, and this is the Making Honey one.
When you think of honeybees, what's one of the first things you think of?
Honey! I love honey.
Do you know how bees made that honey you're eating? Well, let's find out. Here's a forager bee visiting a flower. She's collecting.
Honey! She's collecting honey from the flower.
Not quite, Maris. The bee isn't collecting honey. She's collecting nectar so she can make honey.
Okay, so I'll just go on to the next one. This is the one on pollination, and you'll hear something that links from the making honey one into this program, into this one here.
What's pollination?
Pollination is when pollen from one flower is mixed with pollen from another flower.
What do bees have to do with pollination?
Remember when we made honey?
Yes, we visited the flowers, collected the pollen and nectar, and used the nectar to make honey.
That's right. See this bee? She's been busy collecting pollen and nectar, just like you. But while she's been doing that, the flowers make sure she gets pollen stuck all over herself.
She's got it on her antennae, her head, her thorax, and her abdomen. It looks like she's been rolling around in the pollen.
It does, doesn't it? When bees visit different flowers, they are also taking some of the pollen from one flower to the next.
So they mix up pollen between the flowers?
That's right. Do you know why that's important?
Why?
Pollination is what flowers need to grow into fruit.
Flowers grow into fruit? So a flower can become an apple?
Yes.
Right. But see the connection back to anatomy as well. So it feeds through, so it reinforces it in a different way. It comes in a different angle. So I think it's quite well done. I'm very pleased with it. These two were magnificent. They really were. He's got a high up job in anyway, lots of places now. Yeah, so that's the end of my story. Tell me and I forget, show me and I remember, involve me and I understand. So thank you, everybody. How about that, right on 5 o'clock? Anybody want to make any comments or talk to me?
Just remind people to unmute themselves.
Oh, don't forget to unmute yourself so I can hear you.
I just wanted to thank you, Sue, for all the wonderful work you're doing with kids. I'm just amazed the more I've learnt about what you actually do. So I hope we can promote all your very funny sometimes tips and tricks that you do.
Okay.
Hi, Sue, Leanne here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, I wrote in the notes, but I might as well say that my background is early childhood in the Montessori system here in Australia, and I also have a drama background. So everything that I have seen you do, it just fits in so nicely with everything that I know and everything that I've seen, and I'm thrilled with what I've seen today. It's fantastic.
I have visited a couple of Montessori schools, which sort of does fit into their philosophy, doesn't it? Really, pretty well.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything is reality-based and animistic. So the fact that the animals take on a life is fine. Most of it, Montessori is based in reality.
Yes.
And that's why this is just so valuable. I'd encourage you to hit up every Montessori school you can find.
It's very hard to convince them until, you know, to do that. I found it's, I mean, I used to go for, there was one lady that was really hooked on it in the Montessori, and I went there for quite a few years, and then somebody else came in and it just disappeared. Sometimes it's really quite difficult to sort of say that it's not just going to be, you know, fairies and having fun, you know. I mean, not that they don't have fun, they do, but you know, it is, as you say, reality. You know.
I think perhaps presenting them with this presentation will show them how based you are in reality.
Well, thank you. That's really lovely.
Welcome.
Hi, Sue. Keith here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Keith. Thank you.
Yep. I love the presentation. Just like you said, as an adult, I learned a lot of things I didn't even know. But let me ask you a question. Your presentations use a lot of models. I like models of the animals' characteristics and how they move and so on. Do you ask the young children, how are the models like the real thing and how are they not like the real thing?
No, I don't do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask that is that, you know, sometimes children might pick up understandings because of the costumes and so on that are certainly very appropriate, and other times they may pick up understandings that they perhaps don't appreciate. Oh, this is not quite like the real thing. I just sort of mention that from things that I've sort of read about and talk about from time to time. Just something perhaps to think about, but love the presentation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I do sort of always try to use correct terminology, you know, sort of like pectoral fins and dorsal fins and, you know, that sort of thing. So it's, and even with preschool kids, the metamorphosis sort of side of it. And as I say, I was teaching 4-year-olds today, and I said, now this, doing the life cycle of bees, when we came to the part when the pupae, you know, changes into becoming a baby bee, and I said, now what's that called? That's because I call it the magic. I do call that the magic time. And he said, metamorphosis. This kid said, so I said, yes.
No, fair enough. I mean, I think a good example in terms of what you're saying there, and I appreciate how you try and reflect the actual science, is your example with the cartilage and so on. I thought that was really good, and the nose and whatever. Didn't appreciate it myself, but when you did it like that, that helps the kids to see, oh, that's what that's like, you know, in real terms.
Yes, if you can put it something that they're familiar with, like the, you know, the nose and the ears and things, and then feel the bones, the heart and that sort of thing. When I do the dinosaur program, we do something on how fossils are made, sort of, and I have a book that shows, you know, that sort of basically they get the fossil, the dinosaur falls into the river and the flesh falls away and they're left with a skeleton, and then if there's something special doesn't happen, the skeleton also will fall apart, you know. And then we talk about how sand goes over the top of it and rocks, and that the minerals are brought from the rocks into the bones, and that makes it go hard like a rock, you know. So to really live that out, what I do is make one kid the fossil, or at least the dinosaur lying on the floor, and I use my coloured sheets once more, and we cover it with the water, so he's gone under the water, and then we put the sand sheet over the top of that, and then we put a red sheet which reflects the sort of rocks and things over the top of that, and then we have a earthquake or something, so we shake those, and the water, then we pull the water one out from underneath and say, oh look, the minerals are going into the bones, and now it's formed hard like a rock, you know. Then there's the earthquake, and then part of the foot or something becomes evident, you know. And I get the little brush and diggers, and I sort of brush it aside and say, oh look, we've got a foot and it's got 5 toes, you know. So, because then you go on a dig in the sandpit, and, you know, and become paleontologists. So to act it out, I show them in the book the story, but then when they act it out, then they really.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for all being with us, and I've had a lot of fun. Thanks, ladies, for coming and being my audience. It is quite nice to have somebody you feel you're talking to in the room, you know. Good to see you, Kate, again.
Thank you for everyone coming today, and I've actually got scones here for the actual real audience that was here, who I dragged in various people that I know who are interested in education. Okay, hopefully I'll see all you people too at our AGM in October too, which we'll send out information about it. But yeah, so we're going to see whether we can actually have a real meet in October. We'll just see how the whole COVID thing's going in terms of our AGM, whether we have to have a Zoom one, which are pretty boring affairs, or whether we can actually have a meet up and have a bit of a jolly time. Okay, all right. See
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, Viv.
I'll get Jodie to close it down now.
Okay, good one.
Yes, I was